Hey, what's going on YouTube? It's a CJ. Welcome back to episode 31 of the Innovative Marine 75 EXT Reef build, also known as the Be Easy Reef. Now, for those that are new to the channel, may have stumbled across this video per YouTube recommendations. Keep in mind, this is a full build playlist. So if you really want to know what's been going on, check it out. We detailed everything from building the tank stand, plumbing it, aquascaping, cycling, quarantining the fish, mounting the corals, light, equipment, everything has pretty much been reviewed and covered on this tank. And we still have a lot more to cover in future videos. So make sure you subscribe and stay tuned for future updates. Now, in this update, I really want to kind of catch you up on what's happened over the last couple of months because it's been a while since we covered the tank officially, and also introducing some new fire to the system. So I always got to make some candy in with the good news and the bad news, right? But make sure hit the like button now. Hopefully you guys enjoy this. Hit the subscribe button, notification bell. Let's get busy. Now, if you don't know already, my tank is completely full of beautiful fish, semi-aggressive wrasses, and everything in between. And a lot of fish have purposes as far as maintenance and pest control. But in this situation, I wanted to add a copper band butterfly to hopefully maintain the Actasia in the system because they're a natural predator for those things as far as removing them from your tank. So that's what I did. Picked this guy up, acclimated him, and actually the plan was getting him comfortable in the sump, feeding him whatever I can as far as a mixture of flake foods, brine shrimp, mysis shrimp, frozen foods, just anything I could just to make sure he was pecking and showing interest in foods, acclimated to the water parameters in the sump peacefully, without anyone messing with him before I added him to the display. Now, there's no guarantee this is going to be successful if you're thinking about trying this on your tank. And I have a bunch of fish in the system that are, classified as fish that are harder to keep, like a convict tang or leopard wrasses. And I've been able to successfully keep those fish. So I felt confident that I had an opportunity to prove it once again that I can keep a fish that's difficult to keep alive. So as you guys can see, this guy's in the sump. He's active. He's moving around. Came in fairly healthy. So I really like the plan. At least I did at the time. So this is pretty much the only shot that I got of this guy in the tank. He lasted a whole 24 hours. What a bummer, man. Beautiful fish. Not sure what really happened. My thought is maybe the tank had too much flow, or he was getting bullied, or whatever the case may be. He went from doing well in the sump to, as soon as I added him to the display, being stuck to the MP40. So for those wondering the fate of the copper band butterfly from Instagram, ones who knew about me adding him, well, that guy didn't make it. We also had a few other losses, including a jumper from the tank, a chromis, and the bluehead goby also ended up perishing. So definitely have had a few losses in the BZ Reef. Not only did we have issues with fish perishing, we also started losing a few corals, including one of my favorite hammers ended up starting to brown jelly on me. If you know about brown jelly, it can spread throughout the tank, so it's best to just pull this out before the flow starts blowing that nastiness all over your corals. So that's what we ended up doing. And then the biggest loss that hurt the most has to be my blue maximum clam. First time I've successfully kept a clam for as long as I had this one. And honestly, I feel it would have been perfectly fine if the tank didn't get hit with another round of dinos. Man, I'm telling you, dinos have been the bane of my existence over the last 3 or 4 months. As you guys can see, I have pretty much nailed it down to nutrients in the system. Every time there was a bottoming out of nutrients, meaning zero nitrates, zero phosphates or super low phosphates at the same time, I ended up getting hit with dinos in the system. So this is kind of my fault, to say the least, not checking nutrients as much, being spoiled with having a trident tracking the alkalinity, calcium, and magnesium, not checking nutrients as much, believing that having an overstocked reef tank would, prevent things from bottoming them out. Well, unfortunately, that was not the case, guys. And that is pretty much what I've been fighting over the last 2 months. So at this point, guys, the solution is very simple. Watch my tank parameters. That's it. And I'm going to start off with sending off the first ICP of the Be Easy Reef. Now, I selected the ICP Analyst as my option because they're in the United States. Test kits are a little cheaper than the other kinds, and the results come back a lot faster than sending them overseas to Germany. So I'm happy to test my roadie water and tank water with that company. And then we're also going to be keeping, some nitrates on hand and some bacteria. Instead of using Microbacter 7 or anything else, decided to go with the Biodigest. I've heard great things about it. And those little vials are really potent with all the beneficial bacteria for your system. So I've been adding that to the system along with making sure that the nutrients are up and the dinos have disappeared. Now, with the dinos disappearing means we also grew tons of algae. Keep in mind, no water changes for the last 2 months, no export, purposely dirtying the tank up to create the conditions dinos don't like and create the conditions where the outcompeting algae can flourish. And this is the result. Tons and tons of crazy algae in the Be Easy Reef. But this was the goal. Dirty things up, let things get ugly, and then once the dinos are gone, get in here with the Be Easy toothbrush and do some good old manual haircut for the tank, meaning sucking everything out that I can as far as the algae. Without doing a water change for so long, the goal was not to really change water, just pull out enough to suck as much of this algae out as I could. So that's pretty much what we did. And after this, tank looked a lot better. Now at this point, we are still nutrient management control, nutrient craziness, basically, just to make sure that everything stays elevated while I continue to try to beat these dinos. So after my hands been in the tank, it was time to recruit some additional help, starting with the biggest Osiris snails I've probably ever seen in my life. These things are monstrous, but they should help keep the sand bed turned over and help eat the detritus and leftover things. And then we also added some more cleanup crew, also including my first ever tuxedo urchins. And then we added some scarlet hermit crabs. These are the ones that get a little bigger, but they do have a reputation for taking care of the longer hair algae in the system. So I'm hoping adding these guys, will help keep things under control as I'm trying to turn the tank from being completely crazy, fuzzy, hairy, and just overgrown to getting it back into tip-top form to where things are looking like I want them to look, including turbo snails. And then, of course, the lawnmower blending that's eating off the turbo snail, which was pretty funny to catch us on film. But I figured I would share that with you all. Cleanup crew is getting busy. Now, for those who are watching the video curious, CJ, what new fire did you add to the reef tank? Well, this is going to be the coral therapy that I needed, and it came in the form of a shipment from Indigo Corals. Now, if you guys are not familiar with this company, check them out online at indigocoral.com or eBay. One of the dope things is they got a 100% review on eBay. You guys know how hard it is to keep it at 100%. So that really means that they do a great job taking care of customers, shipping them, and just making sure everything is done the way it's supposed to be. So one thing also worth noting, the packaging on it came really secure, meaning I had to pry this box open, the heat packs were still warm, and all of the corals were conveniently protected in these little plastic bags that also had containers on the inside that were sealed, and then also have corals that are wrapped inside those sealed containers with some kind of plastic protection on it. So I wasn't really sure, how the corals would arrive or what corals were actually going to be in the box. I had provided a wish list, but I told them to surprise me, and they sent me some really nice stuff, guys. So definitely something worth noting. And for those that are curious what it looks like when you pop these things open, I expected it just to kind of be a black lid. What I did not expect was to be an additional seal that I had to break, which is like 3 levels of redundancy when it comes to these containers leaking in the box. You got to break the first seal, you got to break the lid, and then the water has to escape the plastic holding the container itself. And the corals came in top condition. Now, I do want to mention this to you guys. This box was a sponsored box for the channel, and definitely appreciate it. I'm glad they sent these corals out because it really helped kind of reignite the joy for reefing for me after struggling and fighting with the tank over the last 2 months. Definitely was some great, coral therapy for me. But I'm also going to pass that to you all in the form of a discount code. So if you go shopping on their page, just use the code BEAZY, BEEAZY, and you guys can enjoy 15% off your next coral shipment. So make sure you go by and check them out. But as far as this goes, I'm opening these things up and just thoroughly impressed with how they're looking. Like, this is a beautiful elegance coral, very meaty, healthy, no tears, no tissue, nothing wrong with it. So can't wait to get these guys in the tank and then get them mounted on the rockscape. So for those of y'all that were curious what actually was in the box, I'm gonna give you guys a quick look as they're acclimating. It's gonna be a bright orange and green-eyed lobo, followed by that beautiful, meaty, healthy elegance coral, which honestly is probably one of my favorite corals in the tank now. I just love the way it's moving in the water flow. And then followed by some nice candy on the frag rack. It's going to be a Malaysian, like bright gold hammer, a red, I believe, a Siniera coral. It's a meaty, fleshy, bright red coral that I really like. And then a Malaysian gold torch. And then last but not least, that super bright little thing on the right is going to be a banana grill gold torch. Never seen a coral like this before in my life. Super, super bright, super nice. Really looking forward to seeing what that turns into. Then we're going to follow it up with some gonopores. Never had gonies in the tank. Not really too experienced with them, but we do have a bright yellow, red, green goni. And on the right back side, there's a Candy Crush mushroom. So looking forward to getting these guys in the tank. Now, I did let them acclimate for a few days, make sure they opened up, and came up with a master plan of getting them mounted in the system. And this is the fun part, creating a layout that makes sense as far as the placement, the lighting needs, the flow requirements for the corals, and last but not least, the proximity of what can be close to what, and making sure I don't have any coral warfare. So we definitely enjoy getting that process done. So we're going to get back to the candy in just a moment, but for now, I do want to circle back to an issue that I had months ago that I never really covered on the channel, and it's regarding the lid that I had from Clearview Lids. This was originally designed custom made to fit the Orphic lights that I had on the system at the very beginning. But when I switched to the blades, HMS mounts no longer fit. And because of that, I went lidless for a little too long. Ended up having a couple jumpers, including my Scarlet Pink Rise jumped out, Chromis jumped out. It was just suicide attempts everywhere. So it was time to finally get this part replaced. So hitting them up, they were able to cut me a brand new section to replace on the lid. And that's the great thing about it. It's modular. It fits together kind of like puzzle pieces. And once it interlocks, it's super strong. And the material itself is just strong all the way around. It flexes, but it doesn't break. Like, I would really have to try to break this for it to break. So for those curious, it definitely is a durable lid and has been performing well for me over this last year on the Reef tank. So when it comes to replacing the additional section, just popping it into place, hand pushing it at first, and then of course using the good old rusty hammer to do the final, tightening touches, and then peeling off the remaining, machined plastic, because you don't want to seal the mesh on top of that. So don't forget that step. And then last but not least, using the good old Be Easy fork to try to fish this spline in through all the 90-degree angles. Man, I wish I had a rubber mallet and a spline and the proper tools, but You got to get it done however you can get it done. But once we got all this fish through, cut off any of the additional mesh that was covering some of the outputs for the HMS mount, that was pretty much it. And I've been thoroughly impressed with the lid thus far. Haven't had any warping, any different coloration, or anything. It's just been solid. And once I got this on the tank, that completely prevented any additional suicides. Fit like a glove, and life goes on. We're back safe in the Be Easy Reef. So let's finally get back to the tank and enjoy the fruits of 2 months of mayhem and hard work and labor of trying to get past the dino issues. We have finally arrived at the reef tank in a better state, and honestly point to where I want to look at it again. And also many more videos and more tank shots and footage for you guys to enjoy as well. Who wants to really look at a nasty, ugly, dirty tank, right? And for those that are curious, no more side cuts in this video. We're going to be focusing on the display only and enjoying the candy, the livestock, and hopefully try to answer some of the questions you guys may have in the comments before you ask them. But of course, if you do have questions, drop one down below. But as you guys can see, tank is looking a lot better. And for those that are curious, it is being lit by 4 AI blades. I'm using grow, glow, grow, glow in that order on the reef tank from front to back. And the color spread and the coverage is absolutely awesome. And it allows me to enjoy the tank 2 different ways. First being daylight, where I can see the coloration of the fish, all the livestock kind of out and about, moving, hunting for food, fighting each other. And then at nighttime, I get to enjoy the nice blues. So for those that are curious, I do have a very healthy stock list in the tank, which now includes 19 fish in the system. So I'm going to run through the stock list for you guys just so you know. And then we're going to cover it again in a future video where I can really break down the relationships and some of the things I've noticed behavior-wise and the combination of fish I have in this tank, because it is definitely semi-aggressive to say the least. But here goes the list. So we're looking at 2 tangs, a Tamini tang and a convict tang. We have 7 wrasses, a yellow and green chorus wrasse, a dusky wrasse, leopard wrasse, radiant wrasse, red line wrasse, and a 6-line wrasse, which is a small guy zooming around if you can see him. Then we also have a flame angel, a flame hawkfish, 1 azure damsel, 3 blue chromis, 1 yellowhead sleeper goby. It was a pair, but that guy didn't make it. The other one didn't make it. And then we have a pair of snowflake clownfish. And then last but not least, we have a new addition, which is the splendid dotty back. And that was a fish that I have been wanting ever since I seen my buddy Rodney's tank. He had one in there. But understanding dotty backs do have a bit of a anger issue, being territorial, it was best to add him last, and he was the last addition into the Be Easy Reef. So man, it is a full tank to say the least, which makes you wonder, how the hell did I even have nutrient issues? But we'll cover that more in detail as we go. But stock list definitely is a beautiful stock list in the tank. Loves in the activity. And also want to mention, there's 4 cleanup crew members in here, 2 cleaner shrimp, a coral bandit shrimp, and a fire shrimp, all living happily in the Be Easy Reef. And I gotta tell you guys, having shrimp with wrasses is definitely risky. I know it's potential murder waiting to happen, but we've made it a full year with no murders, no conflicts yet. And I keep the fingers crossed, but I believe the order I added all these fish is a major factor in that success. So now it's time to finally let the blaze transition over to the evening settings on the Be Easy Reef, which basically just removes all of the whites from the grows and just lets all of the blues that are available on both the grows and the glows light the Be Easy Reef. So what we lose in coloration on the fish, we gain in fluorescence and color pop of the corals. And this is, almost my favorite viewing of the tank, honestly. It really lets me see the different color layouts that I've set up in the system, and also lets me see the voids of color, which, lets me know where I need to add more corals. But what I want to do is try to give you guys a little idea of the master plan, and that's going to include making this mixed reef a real mixed reef, meaning not partitioning off corals too much And the right side of the tank really shows that with the mixture of the hammers, leather corals in the back, Ghani garden back there, elegance coral, torches on the right, 8 cans in the front. And I've kind of positioned all of these corals in a way to where the flow will help prevent them from stinging each other. The spacing will helpfully prevent that. And then if needed, that was why I use super glue. A majority of those corals will not encrust, which will give me the freedom, if needed, to pop them off, relocate them, frag them, whatever the case may be in the future if proximity becomes an issue. So just something that I am trying to plan for, but I do want to try to accomplish that on the right side of the tank. And the top part was a pure experiment, guys. Mounting all of the pallies and zoanthids on the Be Easy peak has turned out beautifully. They're right underneath the flow, the light, right at the top of the tank, and they are growing like crazy. Fully expect that to be completely covered in the next couple of months. There's going to be a beautiful bouquet of zoanthids and coloration up there. Left side of the tank, I want to highlight the anemone that did move a few months ago and has now split. And even better, the clownfish have kind of stopped fighting finally after months and months of fighting, trying to figure out who the female is. So hopefully, this leads to some kind of breeding activity. Now, the next section I want to highlight is going to be on the left side. This part is going to be mainly hammer dominated with a splash of kind of zoanthids, pallies in the mixture, and then a Duncan coral on the right, which wasn't really sure if it will work, but we're going to find out how it looks when it grows out. But it's definitely going to be completely full of color when it's done. Now, the new section is going to be in the middle bottom of the tank. Did not have a torch garden there before, but after looking at it and receiving the additional torches from indigo corals, I really wanted to try to accent that highlighter piece, that banana grail gold torch, right front and center. Definitely a super bright piece. Looking forward to seeing it grow out, and then the coloration and the variations of corals in that area is also accomplishing that mixed reef feel that I wanted in this tank. So gotta tell you guys, I'm really happy with certain sections of the tank. Then of course we have the section that's void of corals, which is the failed SPS arch. And I say failed for now because 3 different attempts have been wiped out by an alkalinity spike that I caused, another one by Lingbaya, and then the last one by dinos. So man, I've not had much luck with SPS, but I do plan on refilling that area with SPS corals after get the ICP test back and make sure that the tank is actually ready for them, and then we will refill that area of the system. So more to come. So at this point, hopefully you guys have a good idea of CJ's master plan. You guys know I always have one of those, right? When it comes to the stock list, the amount of semi-aggressive, colorful, actively swimming fish, a lot of them have a purpose, whether it's pest control, algae control, and some are just there because they're pretty cool fish, like the flame hawk. I call him, reminds me of the Ren and Stimpy cartoon, if you remember that. But it's just a lot of activity, inverts, and just everything that I visually want to enjoy in the system regarding livestock. And then when it comes to corals, 80% or so is going to be LPS in the system. Meaty, fleshy corals, things that flow, provide movement, take advantage of all the water flow I have in this system. And then that SPS archway, not giving up on it yet, but if for some reason this last time doesn't work, I may fully convert the tank to all LPS and change the flow and just make it all LPS, all movement everywhere. So time will tell if that works out, but the main thing is staying on top of my nutrients. That is going to be my main goal. Weekly checks on the nutrients, graphing them, catching any trends before they go too low. And the part of the reason they went too low was me not really respecting the export on my tank, meaning the skimmer, the large amount of biological filtration I have in here, the algae scrubber, and then last but not least, the hybrid salt that I use, which was a form of carbon dosing off and on during the life of the Be Easy Reef. All of those things combined have led to even a tank that's overstocked like mine, bottoming them out with nutrient issues. So definitely lessons learned. nutrient management is key to preventing major issues in your tank. So definitely take that, with a grain of salt, pun intended. But hopefully you guys have enjoyed this update. And honestly, it feels good to hit the 1 year mark on the Be Easy Reef. I haven't really had a chance to take a tank past that mark. I'm looking forward to going into year 2, year 3 on this tank and see what it can really turn into. So at this point, if you guys want more updates or more frequent, pics of the tank, slide by my Instagram, CJ's Aquariums. I do update more frequently there. And if you're just on YouTube, all good, I got you covered. So as always, you can like, comment, subscribe. You guys keep doing what y'all do. Y'all be easy and happy reefing. Peace.